Yo, what's going on? This is the NOC, the Nerds of Color, and we are back with another ShoPowSho. I'm Kuya P, your Adobro, your Babinka boy, and I'm here with the amazing Ates. What's up, Kat and Tina?
Hey. What up?
Yo, we've got another amazing interview this weekend. We have our first returning guest.
Yes,
which is crazy.
Show.
You know what I'm saying? He's so cool. We brought him back before all these other people that we could have put in front of him, but he's that cool. We're like, all right, you impressed us. You know, we didn't get a chance to talk with you that much because there were so many people when you were last on. We're gonna put you in there now. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna put you ahead of Dante, ahead of Joe Coy. We're gonna bump you up because you're that cool, Justin.
We're gonna put you ahead of Batista.
You know, hey, you're ahead of Batista, bro. You're ahead of all these other casts we could have done. But that's how much we believe in you. So you better not mess this one up. You're right.
Oh, wow. Why are you hazing us?
Hey.
Come on. Hold on.
You know how it's Pinoy Zoo. You know, we gotta fuck with each other. So let's bring him on. He's amazing. He's a producer. He's a writer. He's an interviewer as well. He works with Screen Rant. He's done comics books, as you know, because we had him on the loop with the Vintage comic prelude book. Let's bring him on right now. Here we go, Mr. Justin Quizon. Hey, what's up, bro? Hey, horns.
I don't have Pat to interrupt me. I don't got Lawrence to interrupt me. I'm kidding. Man. Don't tell him that.
Excited to have you back, brother. Our first returning guest, man. Welcome. Great to see you again. How is it post the film, launching at the Hawaiian International Film Festival? How was the return on that? What have you heard? Yeah, and congrats.
I've been hearing, I'm hearing great things. I'm hearing a lot of excitement for the movie, both for the people who are watching at home, and also the people who are were cool enough to do the drive-in screening they did last Thursday. I think there was one theatrical, obviously limited capacity screening. Pat was over there. I'll be talking to him tonight to get a little more one-on-one and how it went. And I was like I was jealous because, man, I love Hawaii. I would have loved in a different time, in a different year. I would have loved to our premiere's in Hawaii. Yeah. That's a dope reason to go to Hawaii.
Yeah. So jelly. I would have flown out there too, man. I love Hawaii.
But no, it sounds like it's got a lot of great reaction. I'm just glad it's out. I'm glad that people are getting around to seeing it. We talked about this on my last appearance, but I've been involved with that movie since 2013, and to see the evolution and the growth and the change to get an actual completed product is, it's still a little I still feel like we're still working on it, right? There's a part of my brain that's like I got notes. Do I have notes for next week? No, we're done. Sure. So it's wild. But I'm glad it's out. I'm glad people are liking it. So I'm glad.
Awesome. Well, congratulations again. Very proud for you guys. Just amazing to see. So now, though, unlike last time where you were talking about the comic book and everybody else, this time it's all about you. We want to know your story, because there's a lot of people that I'm sure, like myself, and others that want to follow in those footsteps. I'm kind of doing what you're doing in a different way. So I want to learn what you've learned and see what I can do. And, we all learn from each other. And there's young cats that aren't even in the game that want to learn. So I'm going to throw it to Tina, who always kicks us off with our first question. Go ahead, Tina.
So where are you from? Where are you from?
What was that?
Where are your parents from?
Okay. So they're from Manila. So they definitely worked in Manila up until the late 70s, then brought over here. My brother and sister were born over there in the Philippines. I was born here. So I was born here I'm in Orange County, Filipino kid. So I was making the joke though, because I'm like, there's a clear 10-year difference between my brothers and sisters, and I went, I was a late add-on, wasn't I?
You were the celebration when they got here, right?
Yeah, it's like
we're here. Let's have some fun.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So how was it being born and raised young Filipino and seeing your parents kind of not as I hate to say assimilate, but that is what happens when we get here, and the different Western cultures and all that. So how was growing up in as a Filipino kid? Did you know you were different, or just in general, just how was life growing up in Orange County?
It was, you know what? It was, I would say I was definitely obviously fully aware that I was a different like ethnic group from other folks. I, very proud growing up being Filipino. My mom and dad definitely were made it clear, we were Filipino. My brother and sister also helped me out. The bummer for me is like I never could learn the language. I never got to learn Tagalog. And I remember a very distinct story that my dad used to say where like I blended English and Tagalog together when I was a baby. So when I went to preschool, the teacher apparently told my mom and dad, you gotta teach him one thing because he's mushing them into one language. And my dad said, you sounded like you're speaking German. Which I'm like, what was I doing? Tagaloging English. Wow. So my Tagalog is crap outside of curse words, and but I was fully aware of my Filipino heritage. I definitely knew that, and I always was proud of it for sure.
Can you remember like any activities that you did that was different than like some of your white friends, like, or customs that you might have felt awkward about it, or proud of? How was some of that and that experience?
Food is obviously always right. Like food's always the big, oh, you don't eat that, you don't have that. That's one thing I always particularly remember. I'll go ahead and just be a little embarrassing to my own self. Like when I explained to a friend in school, tabo, like the little thing you use for the bathroom, he just gave me that look of, I'm sorry, you do what now? I went, okay, so I'm gonna I'm gonna stop now because I'm already embarrassed for myself, so we're good. So those are things I kind of figured out for sure that like, okay, so those are certain things like food for sure. Like when I talked about sinigang to my classmates, no one knew what I was talking about. Like I bring skyflakes to school. Everyone was like, why is that? Like that's a really big Ritz cracker, things like that. So, which I'm sure all of us, like the way of seeing everyone's head, nodding their head, and went, oh yeah, you all get this.
Yep, totally. Like, did they pack you like the food and it was kind of awkward having that instead of like a peanut butter sandwich? Did you have any of those kind of experiences?
You know what? My mom was quick to understand that a peanut butter sandwich was like a safe thing to put in my bag. but like the occasion of Filipino snack, like I said, skyflakes for sure will be in there. Pobron for sure, which always throw off my friends because they're like, what is that white like candy thing? And none of them liked it because they didn't like the powderiness of it. Yeah. Which I'm like, okay, more for me.
Remember what is the little man? It was in a like it was brown with like sugar rolled into like a what was that called? I forgot what it's called. It was like seeds. It had a seed in the middle, but it was like a jellyish. You know what I'm talking about, Justin?
I know.
Did you have those? Yeah, that was always weird to other people, but it was like more for me.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about. I don't get nothing. Yeah.
Cantina had a totally white experience with that type of stuff.
Oh no, that's not true.
Do you remember that? You know what I'm talking about? It was like a brown sugary type with like a seed in the middle. Tamarind seed.
There it is. There it is.
Tamarindo. Yeah. Have y'all had tamarind?
Yeah.
Lattes? That was a joint, man.
I never had tamarind. I think Filipino snacks, like I always had skyflakes and dried mango.
Oh, dried mango all the time. Yeah, straight up. Yeah.
But
the little tamarindo is like 4 or 5 to like a little plastic, piece, and all day, 24/7. And it was kind of nasty though, because I eat it at school. I don't know about you, Justin, but it was like, it looked like you were chewing up like you had chew in your mouth, and because you spitting out brownish in the seed.
Yeah,
it was kind of weird.
It's not the most pleasant looking snack. It really does look super questionable and very sketch.
Yes. But it was so good. I loved it. So what were some of the things as a kid that you got into that would later, kind of, I want to do this later as a living, which I'm sure kind of like, what were some of the early influences, on that spectrum, like art, comics, sci-fi? What were some of the things that you got into as a kid that, I want to do this when I get older?
Definitely comic books was the first love, like the first real childhood obsession. I drew like all the time as a kid. And my brother, huge influence on me growing up. My brother, he was the one who really encouraged my art. He's the one who made sure I read real books before I got to read comics. But he always like rewarded me with a comic book if I finished like a non-picture book. He got me art books to learn from and to draw. One of my first books I got was like art books with like how to draw the Marvel way.
Yes,
Yeah.
John Buscema. That was my guy.
Dang.
I still have my original copy too to this day, man. That's legendary. You have to have it. That's Bible shit.
Yeah, no, 100%. It's required, Yeah. And so like all my early bases of drawing were from that book. And I had aspirations of, I'm going to draw Spider-Man and Captain America, and I'm going to do these long runs. And then I was a really big Image kid growing up too. So I always was like, I'm going to do a 5-year run on Spider-Man. Then I'm going to bolt and then make up my own thing at Image,
Love it. Hell yeah.
Awesome. But I also got to film at the same time too. My brother took me to see classic movies. I went to go see Casablanca and like along with my Bill and Ted's, he also showed me like classic cinema. So I have an appreciation for both around the same time. Comic books became my own thing, but movies is what I shared with my brother and my family for sure.
So is there a particular comic and also film that was life-changing that is it for you? Like, this is it. Can you recall that?
Oh, that's a good question. I think, like, I think it had to be like an issue of Spider-Man, like for me, which I look in your background, you get.
Hey, same for me, bro. Yep.
And this issue was really cool because it was an issue of Spider-Man where I think it was a snowstorm was happening. And all the other Marvel heroes showed up in this issue to help the citizens of New York because of like this terrible snowstorm. And so that was like my first exposure to everyone. So like Captain America, Thor, Black Panther showed up to help everyone in this terrible snowstorm while Spider-Man's fighting some other guy. And I always just like, that just like opened my brain to the, because when you see a comic book and you see a superhero, you're like, oh, that's the world they live in. But that was my first idea. Like, oh wait, they all hang out. They all can be in the same street, So I definitely kind of broke my brain a bit growing up. And I'm like, oh, cool. And that's why I'm like, if I can do that, I can draw everyone in a comic book page. And for me, the movie,
Hey,
Back to the Future. It's still my favorite movie of all time, for sure.
Love it. I'm a big Back to the Future guy, man, myself as well.
In
my top,
so is that your
top 10.
Is that your preferred like time travel method? Is the flexible
DeLorean?
Yeah, and the DeLorean.
Here's the thing. The TARDIS in Doctor Who, that's clearly more comfortable.
That's fair.
There's like a lot of space. You can, there's a lot of clothes you can pick. You can take a nap. But I mean, who doesn't want to drive a DeLorean?
It's true. Those wing doors are so fly. So
right, like they're the worst cars ever made, but I don't care. One day I want to drive one. So
did you ever ride the Universal ride?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I miss it. I'm so sad, but I'm so glad I got to experience.
I know.
it.
I miss it so much. I went to go I did the Simpsons ride that's over there now, and I'm like, this is fine. But I mean, you got to ride the DeLorean. Like that's still one of the best things about that ride. But
Absolutely.
I miss it too. I wish they could just put it back in there.
I'm a big dark person, so.
I love it, man. Yeah, big Back to the Future guy myself as well. So that brings us now. So we were as a kid. Now we're in middle school, high school. Yeah. Let's talk about those years and maybe a little bit how some of that influenced later on with working on Olympia with a Vengeance and how you kind of, got down with Patricia. Or actually, you know what? We'll get to the Olympia with a Vengeance stuff. But if any of that experience could correlate to that first Olympia film. You know what I'm saying? If you had some of that experience with the fobs and all of that stuff. And I couldn't relate because I was the Macizo kid wanting to be the Filipino guy that was fresh from the like I never understood the hatred against the fobs. I was like, man, those are the coolest guys, because I was so deeply connected to loving my my roots. So I didn't really understand that mess. But that's a whole nother story for a whole nother episode that we'll discuss. But let's talk about middle school, high school, and a little bit of your lumpia experience.
It's like I kind of lucked out because like my junior high and my high school years, there was a good mix of like Asian American kids. And so like there was plenty of Filipinos, there were plenty of in my area, plenty of Vietnamese and Korean children. So I didn't feel that fob hate thing. You know what I mean? Especially because like, and then I went to Catholic school. So at night, which meant that I was mostly, what's that?
They said you're real Filipino.
Yeah, exactly. That's how you know. And so like I had to go to Catholic school at night, and then that had like a bunch of Filipino kids, and I'm with you. I never really had the anti-fob incident. Because I always just felt proud of being Filipino. I was like my identity. I was the kid who wore the Filipino flag T-shirt, and everyone would be like, because you're Filipino? Because I'm a little lighter skinned than others. So I get that a lot. I have to keep explaining I'm not mixed. That's one of my biggest things growing up. Like I'm not mixed. I have a little Chinese in me because of my Lola, but I'm like, I get like, I'm Filipino. And everyone's like, oh, I see it. But I never got that experience that happened in the Lumpia film, But I understand that experience, I do get it. I lucked out. I never really got bullied for that. Bullied,
So, okay. So you're in high school, you're getting ready to go to college.
Yeah.
And how was that? And with what you wanted to later pursue, did you actually go to school for what you initially, got into later? What was that kind of like, dichotomy of experience and getting your parents approved? Because I was pushed to go, hey, become a doctor. You know how like a lot of us are, either become a doctor or a lawyer. The arts out of the question, like I had to do that on my own. How was some of that for you when you were in high school?
It's funny because I kept telling my mom I was going to be a teacher. I figured that was a good enough job. I know I wasn't going to be good enough to be a doctor or an accountant or a lawyer, but I figured I can handle being a teacher. But film was always something I loved, and comics was always something I loved. So I still was drawing. And by high school, I was like already shooting like horror movies with my friends. They're terrible, by the way.
Right? I want to torrent it. Let's go.
What's that?
Torrent it.
And then I did sketches for my classmates. I did a video sketch for my economy class, like a fake commercial. So I was already kind of dipping my toe in the film world without like saying it out loud that I was gonna do it. But I just figured like I like it. But told my mom, well, I'm gonna go to school for being a teacher. That's what I was gonna do. I was gonna be an English teacher. That's what I was.
So the secret is tell her one thing, but then do something else.
Yeah, no, exactly. So when I got to college, I got to community college. I was on that path of just finishing up my general education, looking into colleges. But then 1 year there was a TV production class where we had to make a sitcom, and so I needed an extra credit. So I was like, sure, okay, why not? So that was my first exposure to any form of actual filmmaking, and I was hooked. I got to work with real cameras. I got to actually edit with actual editing equipment. I was doing the VCR to VCR thing when I was making my shit in high school. Or sorry, curse. My stuff in high school.
It's all good.
Okay. So I was doing like really low grade stuff in high school, like going from VCR to VCR. But then I learned how to edit on Final Cut, on Adobe Premiere, and shot with actual cameras. And I was like, oh no, I love this. This is it. And so I looked up. There was a school over here called the Los Angeles Film School. It was a 1-year program. I was inspired by Kevin Smith because Kevin Smith said he went to a 1-year program in Vancouver, and I kind of went. I had to sit down with my mom. I guess this is something I should bring up now. I didn't really kind of like really. I don't promote this very much, but I feel like I sort of need it because it adds to my story. Mm-hmm. I have a history of Filipinos in entertainment industry with my family in the Philippines. Cool. So I'm gonna just go ahead. What's that?
It wasn't foreign for them for you to be like, so I want to go into film. They were kind of
it wasn't because I'm gonna see if you guys know the name. Y'all know Dolphy?
Dolphy.
Comedian Dolphy Quizon? If you know, that's okay.
Dolphy
I was
Quizon.
Real late. Real late. I will Google him though.
That's fine. So Dolphy is my uncle, and he's considered to be one of the biggest comedians in the Philippines.
I recognize him now that I've seen him. Oh shit.
Yeah, so he's my uncle. And so I have a relative, and then I have aunts and uncles who are actors, performers, directors in the Philippines. And so when I sat down with my mom to tell her I want to do this, and my brother did too. I've just letting you guys know, he also went to film school. So he also went to film school. He was in the industry for the longest time too. So when I told my mom I wanted to do it as well, she sat there, she thought about it, and I actually do remember that she sat there and went like, it's in the blood.
Aw, that's cute.
Yeah.
She's like, that's your family line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that's beautiful, bro. That's
it's
wild. Yeah.
It's unavoidable,
Yeah.
So
that's super cool, man. Yeah, it's in the DNA, it's in the bloodline. That's so you basically kind of got the blessing in a way from her. By that statement.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So I went to film school the following year, and it was one of the best years ever because it was like film camp. It was like going to summer camp, but for film nerds. We learned everything, and I got to make a graduation short film. It was a Filipino family comedy martial arts movie.
Awesome.
It's like a brother and sister who fight. What's that?
Where can we find it?
It's not public. I can send you all a link later.
Yes.
Oh hell yeah! Hey, yeah, please do, bro.
For sure. It's like a brother and sister who fight in their uncle's restaurant. That's the short film.
So you mentioned the martial arts film, and then I know that you worked on Lumpia with a Vengeance, which is also martial arts. So I'm wondering, do you think that there's some kind of tie between like Filipino community and martial arts? Like, is there something that makes you guys want to make martial arts movies, or is this just a guy thing?
That is wild.
It's just a dude thing. Well,
it's a dude thing.
I don't want to throw any shades. I am an English teacher though, so I was taking everything you said very personally. But also, I did a minor with drama in film, so I did a little bit of film stuff, and I saw a lot of martial arts movies. But I was just wondering in particular if this was, if you thought that there was some kind of tie between your genre of choice and your background.
I feel to a small degree, yeah. I do feel that way. I do feel I got really obsessive with martial art movies when I was in junior high. And this kind of goes a lot into like finding myself in movies, right? So there were, in terms of like popular movies. So Filipino movies weren't really hugely popular here, and arguably still not popular here. But I wanted to like, when I found out about martial art movies like Jackie Chan, Jet Li, or movies done by John Woo, like and starring Chow Yun-fat, I saw guys that were close enough to looking like me, to being way cooler than any American hero I've ever saw here. Like when I discovered Chow Yun-fat, I was like, that guy is so much cooler than Steven Seagal, you know?
Hands down.
And like looking at Jackie, like just discovering Jackie Chan was like a revelation to me, you know? Like I'd never seen anything like it. I thanks to my brother, I got a film history lesson about Buster Keaton and Charlie Chaplin. But then here was Jackie Chan, who took those guys and then added fighting to it. And my mind was blown. So I think the reasoning for why me and Pat started incorporating the Filipino martial art culture in our films is that we kind of are emulating those guys, you know, and we know that the Filipino martial arts, like Eskrima, like is used all the time. Like Matt Damon does it, you know, in the Bourne movies. And yet we don't see our people use it in film, you know. And like when Ong Bak came out, the Tony Jaa movie, like that movie blew up Muay Thai like no other. People like figured out what Muay Thai was, and they're like, whoa, that's amazing. And I think for guys like me and Pat, we see Eskrima and Filipino martial arts, Kali, as like as cool as that. And we haven't really seen it utilized in film, even in the Philippines. Like no one's made a really awesome martial arts movie using our martial arts. They made good action movies in the Philippines. I know that. I know in the 70s and the 80s, there were like really good action movies, but they were like American style action movies. And like, I'm just sitting here going like, we have this amazing martial arts that you don't use in your films. Why isn't there a Filipino equivalent to an Ong Bak or a Filipino actor who's the equivalent of a Jet Li or someone? And so when we were, you know, when I made my graduation film and when Pat made Lumpia, clearly we were both like, Filipinos can be just as cool and just as like awesome and have their own unique style that no one else sees. And so I'm assuming when Pat made Lumpia, that's why the first movie, you know, it's a guy wearing a barong, the most Filipino outfit, and he's throwing egg rolls, you know, the most Filipino dish.
Right.
But the egg rolls kind of fill the role of the Eskrima sticks to a certain degree, you know? And when I made my graduation film, my characters, I trained my actors to learn Eskrima, learn stick fighting for that film. So it was because we wanted it in our movies, you know, we want people to see it. So yeah, I think a lot of it is like I saw those really cool Hong Kong films and just like Filipinos can look as cool as that, you know. So there you go. Yeah.
Yes, that is an awesome answer. That was really good. Damn. Oh, man. Like over here, like,
yeah, for real, man. Yo, tell it. Yo, Justin, I'm with you. I can echo Justin. Like, yeah, that was our representation. And so Ates, are you not familiar about Eskrima and like the Philippine martial arts? It's heavy. Like we've had it for a minute. Okay.
I know what it is, and I know that we have Filipino martial arts and stick fighting and all that. I just think that's really like it makes sense that like, you know, what is the Asian representation in film that you see? It's martial arts movies. And it's like, you know, even still, like we don't see Filipino representation in mainstream movies, you know, like we've spoke on this before, that like Filipinos are casted as Latinos and like they're casted as like every other race but Filipino. Yeah. So like the fact that you're like, no, we're gonna make a Filipino martial arts movie, like that's awesome. I think that's really awesome. And like I want to see more of that. Like, so are you going to make more? Are you going to make a sequel? Are you interested in pursuing that further? Like, where are you? Where's your head now?
Well, in terms of Lumpia, we were always talking about another Lumpia, you know, obviously. As for me, I mean, of course, I'm constantly thinking of, I've for the longest time, my short film that I did in graduate in college, I have a feature length expansion on it. I know what the full length version of that world is. So I know and it's just as Filipino as it was when I made it in 2007, because I made that film in 2007. And so Of course, absolutely. You know, I have dreams of doing like flying back to the country, to the homeland, and doing a film there.
That would be so cool.
And finding
right?
Jackie Chan.
Yes.
Yeah. Find my Jackie Chan. He or she has to be out there somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
And like, you know, I think about it a lot. I think about it all the time. You know, I'm still really into martial art movies, and yeah, the dream is like seeing like us do that more in film and television for sure. So yeah, absolutely. No, the dream's still there, and I'm not done with it yet.
I love it. I love it. I want to talk more on that, on what you want to do within film. But I'd like to, you know, also hit up, let's go with some of the struggles first, before we get back to the regular, you know, the stuff that we're building on. But like, what are some of the stuff you've learned? What are something that, you know, while in film school or you're still learning now, something that you might've recently learned, when you have like writer's block or just that creative juices aren't flowing. Can you talk about some of those struggles or some of the difficulties in maybe working on Lumpia, or when you're working on your film projects in film school? Just were some of the things that you had to overcome, and lessons learned that you can impart to others?
The biggest one for me is letting everyone understand your ideas. You're in your head a lot, you know, when you're writing and you're trying to get this project out, especially when it's film. Because when it's film, it's collaborative, right? So everyone else has to understand what you're talking about. And one of the biggest lessons I learned was really listen to everyone. You know, I mean, you don't have to take everyone's advice, but you do have to listen, because they have to be where you're at. They have to understand what you want. So like, I was making a Filipino martial arts family comedy in college. So my crew was my classmates, and I only had just the cast were Filipino. Everyone else wasn't Filipino. So I had to figure out how to explain it to them, what I was going for. So one of the lessons I learned from some of my other favorite filmmakers, like Edgar Wright or Tarantino, was kind of give them a mini lesson. So I basically gave them homework. I gave my crew homework. I had them like, hey, borrow my DVD, borrow this DVD. That's the tone of the film I'm going for. Then I kind of sort of had them talk to me about my family, my upbringing, what was kind of like the goal I was aiming for, you know, what does ate mean? You know, like that happened a couple of times. You know, trying to make sure that if they're doing something, it's like, no, that's a Chinese culture thing. That's not what we're doing here, you know. Like someone tried to explain to me, like, oh, so do you like you want me to get like a bowing, like you want them to bow or something? Go, what? No, what? No, they're Catholic.
Don't do that here.
Yes, wrong.
And so it was definitely like letting them understand what I was going for, because that is the hardest thing to try to convey on the paper, on the script alone. It's like they get the idea, they probably get the characters, but the culture stuff was one of my biggest things I had to learn. And sometimes I wasn't good about it. Sometimes I really wasn't clear. And like my first assistant director from my school, she took me aside and she's like, you gotta be more clear with them. You gotta be more open. You have to kind of get them to understand what you're talking about. Because not everyone has seen everything you've talked about. No one everyone's lived everything you talked about. It's like, okay, that was fine. Because I was nervous that first day of filming, you know, like I put money in it. I was training my actors for months. I didn't want to mess up, you know? So that first day was a lot of me like freaking out a lot. And my friend took me aside and just like, only you can get this. You just have to be open to everyone and open to everyone's suggestions. And like, okay. And that was one of the biggest lessons I got, was just, if someone said, hey, why don't we do this instead of like, no, but I had it a certain way, I had to start remembering, okay, can I see what you're talking about? And once I saw what they're talking about, I just went, oh, that's way better than what I came up with. So that's the biggest lesson I still insist on to people, is just like, if you're going to direct and write a project, like you got to be open to everyone's collaboration, because they're not there to make it worse unless they're a terrible person. But like they're there because they want it to be good too.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's a big lesson. Like, no one sets out to make a bad movie. You know, like, you just no one sets out to make a bad movie, but like, bad movies can still be made with good intentions. But everyone wants to make a good movie. Everyone wants to make something they're proud of when they walk out of the set and when they see it eventually. So understanding collaboration is like the biggest lesson that I can give to anyone. It's like, you got to be open to making sure you're cool with changes, because sometimes, actually most of the time, the changes are better. You know,
you're like stuck in your point of view. So it's like, these people are here to shift your focus and
some things are out of control, you know?
Yeah.
And some things are totally out of control. Like, I can say that for Lumpia. Like, I wasn't there for all the shoots, but I definitely heard how Pat was throughout a lot of the shoots, where he would just be like, oh, we have to this and this, and we have to completely reshift and change. And it's like you have to be fast with the changes and accept that the changes are going to happen, you know? But as long as you know what your true north is, which is the story you're telling, you should be fine. You know, that's my other thing. Just always know your true north. What's your story? You know, don't get lost in everything, because you can easily get lost in everything. Like, Lumpia is one of the biggest things I've personally been involved with as a creative. I've worked on, I was a production assistant for 5 years of my life. And I worked on big movies, to no one's heard of them movies, to reality shows, to corporate videos. And the thing I learned is always just like just kind of learning how to communicate with everyone. And when I saw Lumpia was like one of the biggest projects I was involved in that I have a creative and emotional stake in. And so I felt for Pat when Pat was like, oh man, you know, struggling on certain things. But I also believed in him, and I knew that, you know, he just needed to talk it through, and he figured it out, you know. But you got to listen to your other people. And he did. He definitely did. He talked to me and Earl a lot, pre-production, during production, post-production, like, is this going right? Is this going right? And we would always, if it wasn't, we'd tell him. We're like, no, that doesn't work. You guys are sure? Yeah, get rid of that. Or yes, that's totally fine. Don't touch a thing, you know? So that's my biggest thing. Collaboration is only going to make your film better, you know, no matter how big or small your project is.
How did that relationship start? How did you first get involved with Olympia? Who did you meet first? How did it all begin?
With Pat, I met Pat at the film festival over here called Los Angeles Pacific Island Film Festival, or FPAC. Oh, not FPAC. That's another thing. BC Film Festival. And so I had a movie. Actually, my graduation film was there. It was actually like my first film festival for that film. And so I met Pat through my lead actress, because she worked with Pat on the Bedbook video. So she was in the Bedbook video. And like I said, in the episode with you guys I did last time, like, I discovered Lumpia because of the trailer. And so I knew of the trailer, and I saw the movie. And so that's how I met Pat. And he seemed like a really cool guy, and etc. at that festival. I kept bumping into him at conventions. Like WonderCon, Comic-Con, Long Beach Comic-Con. So I sort of realized, like, oh, Pat's a nerd.
You're talking about that.
So once we realized, oh, cool, we're also just nerds. So it's not just like, I'm a film guy or he's a film guy. It's like, oh, he's here to buy Transformers and stuff.
There's another layer to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was Long Beach Comic-Con. I actually very distinctly remember this. I bumped into him and we were just walking around. And Pat was like, hey, I'm starting to work on something with Earl Bela, who ended up playing G-Dog in Lumpia with a Vengeance. And I've known Earl for 10 years as of now. So me and Earl used to be in a sketch comedy group. I was the writer and I directed stuff. Earl was one of the performers and writers. So Earl was starting to work with Pat on something. And then Pat was like, I was thinking, because Earl told me you also write and you're also a comedy writer. I was thinking if you want to meet up and, like, I don't know, work on something. And I was like, oh, shoot. Yeah, no, for sure. Because Pat was busy. Pat's working. He's done so many projects at that point. This is 2013. So he did a bunch of music videos, a bunch of short films, a bunch of spec commercials. He was already rolling. And when we met for the first meeting, it wasn't for Lumpia though. It was for a completely different movie. And we talked a lot about that particular movie, and we kind of pushed that movie aside. We started developing another movie completely. Just basically kind of was figuring out different ideas that Pat had. And it was fun just sort of spitballing things here and there. But I do remember the day that Pat asked me if I wanted to do Lumpia 2. It was, he basically announced it on Kickstarter already, I think. So the Kickstarter was already announced. And I'm like, cool. And so he was like, yeah, dude, for sure. The Kickstarter was announced. He's like, yeah. So I was actually also curious, do you want to help out a little bit with Lumpia with a Vengeance? And I'm like, yeah. I figured I was going to work on it a little bit. But I was like, that movie, to be a part of the sequel in any capacity, I was like, yeah, dude, whatever. You want to hold a light or something? I don't care. But so originally, I won't say exactly what my original job was supposed to be on the project, but it went from being a smaller job, and as 7 years kept going, as we were trying to get this thing done, it became what I am now, which is an associate producer. And again, yeah, Pat just, it was one of the things where, again, it's you get the vibe off of somebody, you meet somebody and if they were creative and if you feel like you could work together, you're going to give it a shot, but what's, so with Pat, it's we were slowly becoming friends first. And then he had the instinct to go, I think I could work with this guy. And here we are 7 years later, and we have a feature film.
What is one of your most proud parts of that project? Didn't you do the emoji story in the Prelude comic?
That was it. Yeah.
So would that be kind of further? I love that sequence within the comic book. It would have been awesome to see the emojis pop during the film. But it came to life in the comic book. So would that be one of the big things that you really take pride in? But just what's some of your favorite moments within that project?
Oh man, I can definitely say, and I can't say it because it's a spoiler.
You know what?
In the trailer, but there's a moment that we pitched.
Okay.
That me and Earl pitched that we were both half joking that we wanted to happen, but then also sort of pushing it as if maybe you should do it.
I'm just joking. Yeah. Unless.
Right, exactly. You don't have to do it, but So there's this idea that we pitched, and we laughed so hard, and it got in the script, and I figured, okay, maybe you might cut it out. And then, Earl told me, no, we filmed it. And so when I saw it's a little bit in the trailer. So hey, I'll just say it's in the trailer. In the trailer. There's a Captain EO bit at the finale of the film. And when I saw that in the trailer, my mind's oh my God, we did it.
Okay, I know exactly what you're talking about since I reviewed the film.
God, we got a Captain EO bit in the movie. And I won't say how it comes at any point of why it's there, but the fact that it's there, I'm sort of still blown away by it.
That's awesome.
There's another idea that Pat keeps saying it's mine, and I legit don't remember it.
It also sounds like filmmaking, yes.
And so I'm like, okay, sure, I'll take it. Because he's like, that's yours. I'm like, that must have been in 2014. I don't remember a damn thing about this idea. There's one that I kept pushing, maybe in Lumpia 4, or Lumpia 3, that I kept pushing, is that I kept telling Pat, I want a little Shanghai Lumpia, little tiny one, to spin to turn into a bow staff.
Yeah, that would be dope.
That would have been dope. And it's like we never figured that out. But like I'm like, all right, Lumpia 3, we'll get it in there.
That'd be awesome.
But I'm proud of those things for sure. And just seeing the evolution of the film and there was a big change that I think I'll let Pat just say on his own and a commentary or something. But there was a big change that we helped shape because we realized a certain thing wasn't working, a certain character wasn't working, and he made this decision. What if I did this? And me and Earl sat there and like about a day, and we're thinking that actually would be better. And we told him to go ahead and do it. And because again, there's so many iterations of this script. Like so many iterations of the script. There were sequences, whole sequences that were there for years that just disappeared by the time we started filming, you know?
Awesome. All right. Well, I don't want to spoil too much. We'll let Pat do that when we have his one-on-one. You mentioned Earl a lot.
Get mad at me.
Exactly. I want to talk about your sketch comedy show real quick and some of that. So, because we went went to film school and all that, and you made your film, but how did that happen to occur, and meeting with Earl, or did how did that all happen and go down, and how was that experience?
Oh man,
will you return to that?
How I got into my lead actor for my graduation film. His name was Jeremy Lawless. He was a cast member of the sketch group. At the time, the most original name ever, sketchcomedyshow.com. And I went to his first show, and I went as a guest. I just went to go watch them perform, and I thought that they were funny, and but their whole deal was like, Asian Americans in comedy, but not Asian American comedy. So we're not going to do a ton of sketches about being Asian American. We just wanted to do funny sketches. So when I graduated film school and I talked to Jeremy and went, hey, you guys need more writers or producers or something? He's like, yeah, dude, join. It's like, okay. And that's where I really did meet Earl. And I think that was about 5 years of just working on that show. We did a lot of live shows. We won competitions. It was a blast, man. I loved it. Like, I do miss it. Like, I do miss being a part of it. I was never a cast member, hilariously enough. I was always getting the cast ready and directing here and there and writing a lot of sketches and giving notes, but I miss it. Like, that was a group of really funny people, and I was really proud of a lot of the sketches we did. Because
do you want to act? Do you want to get in front and actually play out some of the roles you've written, or
the temptations popped up here and there? I think there was a brief period in when I was 12 that I thought about it, and I thought maybe I can go in the Philippines because I have a clear, easy in.
I watched that TikTok.
Yeah. Tito? Hi, instead of a Christmas gift, can you just put me in a movie? I am actually in one of his movies. That's no joke.
Oh, so that wasn't a joke. That was a Christmas gift. Okay.
Yeah. I hated it though. I hated acting. I was like 9. I didn't understand what was going on. Why do I have to do that scene again?
You just did it.
Did it. But no, I once in a while, if you follow me on Instagram, I'll shoot a sketch for fun and it's quarantine, so it's just me.
What are you doing?
I'm the cast, crew, producer, director, so I'll have to act in my own video. So, maybe one day, but I have a lot of fun, collaborating with the actors. And it was a blast. I think me and Earl have talked many a times, maybe me, him, and another cast member would do just a trio thing. But, we never made any, we'll see. But I miss it. It was a lot of fun. It was like theater every week, rehearsal and, did costumes work or did they laugh? And that was the other lesson I learned too, is figuring out what makes people laugh. Because one night we would perform a sketch, killed. The same sketch, the second night, dead. And we were all like, we literally did the same thing. What happened?
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. Fact about me, I used to do a cable access show, a live cable access show, and doing sketches all the time. And it's you gotta kind of just do it for yourself. And it was a lot of fun. but it's in a, there's some downtime. Sometimes stuff doesn't hit, but you do it for yourself, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, right. Where can we find that?
They actually used to be online. It's called the Spooky Dementia Show. You might be able to find some clips online, but I'll send you some clips. I'll send y'all some clips. I used to be my character was called Zombie Wombi. I was the candy eating zombie. I wouldn't eat people. I would eat candy.
That's so cute.
Yeah.
Was there a voice?
Awesome,
was there a
bro.
voice with Zombie Wombi? Was there?
Yeah, give us a Zombie Wombi preview.
Oh, what, with my voice?
Yeah.
I've got candy. It was like gravel. It was like Dark Knight meets zombie. that gravel. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Do that gravel with your voice. It was so retarded, but it was fun. You know.
I like it.
So yeah, that's awesome, man. Yeah, just performing and just creating is that's my soul, and so it's awesome, and talking to another person that just loves to create. Speaking of creating, you co-created the tokusatsu inspired online comic Shining Yusha. I know I'm messing that up.
You got it.
With Victor Perfecto, can you talk about that?
Yeah. So one of the kind of going big back on the whole. Me pointing out why I started getting the Hong Kong films. It's the same reason how I got into these guys, the Japanese superhero guys, Ultraman and Kamen Rider, is similar deal. I found out about Ultraman when I went to the Philippines when I was a kid, and I found out about those Japanese superheroes. And again, I was reading Spider-Man, Batman, Superman, white guys, and and I love Batman, Spider-Man, and Superman. But when I was in the Philippines as a kid, I saw again, he wasn't Filipino, but it was a Japanese man turned into this giant silver superhero, and my brain again was like, "What's that?" That is so much cooler than Batman in my head. So I was obsessed with this subgenre of superheroes from Japan, tokusatsu heroes, and so that's your Power Rangers over here, but Sentai over there.
Right.
And so I dove in deep, and ironically, around 2013, the same year I started working on Olympia, I dove deep into really looking up all those Japanese superheroes and trying to watch those shows and getting the history of it. And right. And wearing I have a lot of shirts. And so really getting into it, and it finally just one day it just dawned on me, and I went, I should just come up with one.
Yeah. Oh my god.
You gotta do better than Angel Grove, right? You could do this.
yeah, right.
I talk shit. I love Power Rangers.
I have a morpher and everything.
Filipino Power Rangers.
Oh yeah.
We almost had a Red Ranger Filipino Power Ranger.
I didn't know. Tell me about it.
It was Mark Dacascos?
Yeah.
I think
in the early version of Power Rangers, he was the Red Ranger.
No way.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, look it up. It's called Galaxy Rangers, and you can see Mark Dacascos, young as hell, Mark Dacascos. And he's playing Victor Lee, the Red Ranger. And we were like,
the guy.
We were this close.
Oh man, this is the trivia I live for. Thank you.
Right.
You're welcome. But so I figured, okay, I want to come up with my own, and I had an old superhero idea that I had when I was a kid that I just retrofitted the Ultraman Kamen Rider elements to, and then I asked my buddy, my co-creator Victor Perfecto, who's the artist, and he was he lives with me, so we're the ones watching all these shows together, and he's learning just as much as I am, and he's a very talented artist and cartoonist, and I pitched him my idea and went, hey, do you want to expand on this? And eventually he figured out some really cool things he wanted to add to it. So the comic book is called Shining Yusha, and the character is this half Japanese, half Filipina girl who's inherited the powers from the previous Shining Yusha. Mm-hmm. So she's the second gen. And what happens is while she inherited the powers, the monsters that he defeated 30 years ago have been resurrected. So she's kind of a nerd. She's a fan of, she's kind of remembers all the battles he's had. So she's using her knowledge of how those old battles went to defeat the monsters now, but they're all like we will see them in the past, they'll look like goofy rubber monsters, but now it's 30 years later, they look really messed up and like kind of like zombie-ish. So they're a little scarier now. But she gets to utilize that, and her mentor and her trainer is a woman who's supposed to have the abilities, but by accident, our main girl got it. So she has like, we have this older woman who's trying to like guide her and make sure she's doing the right thing, and you have this 15-year-old girl who's trying to like save the planet, and they live on this island that's essentially like Hawaii, but like its own thing, you know. So it's like kind of like Hawaii, but we are doing our own little mythology to it. So yeah,
like what's the Big Hero 6 place?
San Francisco.
Tokyo.
Yeah. I can see that. That sounds cool.
Yeah.
So it looks awesome, man.
Female protagonist. So.
Yeah, I really like Darna, so that's like
yes.
I should have worn my Darna shirt. I have a Darna shirt.
Next time.
Next time.
I'll wear it next time.
I love it, man. The visuals look great. I'm checking it out on the screen right now. So are there any plans to come back to it and do more when you have time, or just time permitting with your artists, really?
It's definitely going to be when me and him have figured out like our time. Like we I think there might be other things I might do with it. You know, just like had some talks, but yeah, no, we got through like I think 10 pages or something like that. But it's like it's something that like I have so much. We have so many ideas. We have so many new characters and so many things. I'm just gonna tell you right, there is a character that's just straight up Earl. I just told Victor like we just got to put Earl in the comic. And if the dream one day is for me to make a live action version of this thing, then Earl will be immediately cast.
Awesome.
If you cast someone else as him, that would be really funny. But
right, no, we got Dave Bautista to play Earl's
character. That's a big name, man. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. He reached out. I can't say no to Bautista.
Awesome. I love it. Also, I see on your plate, besides doing that and, your Lumpia work, you have your Nothing New podcast. If you can tell us a little bit about that and your work with Screen Rant. Because again, earlier we talked about this before we started. I'm super jelly you talked to Sev and Anish on that Run film, man, because a classic. And if those who haven't seen it, go check out Run on Hulu. But talk to us about Nothing New and just some of your experiences working with Screen Rant.
Nothing New is my remake podcast, and so our goal for that show is we watch the original film and then we watch the remake and compare and contrast. And our questions are always asking, why did you remake it? And if you remade it, like did you make it good? Did you justify the remake, or are you just here to make a cash cow because someone remembered that movie 20, 30 years ago? And the answer usually is sadly the latter. Like, very rarely is the answer like, oh, I have a new artistic take. It's like, no, we just wanted to make Karate Kid again.
Dude.
That's a show we've been doing once a month. We've been doing it 3 years in a row. So what's that?
I was saying, we have to hold on to the copyright, so we had to remake this movie, and then
I said, call Spider-Man. Call.
Yeah. Which that answer is so much. It's kind of sad. And so yeah, it's I can talk film all day long. I really can.
I want to know what's the best of the remakes that you've seen and reviewed so far. Like, what's one that you would say was as good or better than?
Kat's a really big movie buff.
I'm not a big movie buff. I hate talking about movies. I have shit taste. I just like to watch them.
I'll say there was a remake of the classic horror film Suspiria that came out in
yeah,
and that was a movie where it is absolutely 100% not the original film. It's its own thing. It definitely takes the inspiration point from the original film, but it has something way more interesting to say than just repeating sequences from the first movie. And I still, it's a hard movie to watch. Don't get me wrong. That's not an easy movie to watch, but that movie still stays in the brain because I'm like, you just went and just did the polar, like not even polar opposite. You just made a different thing, but the DNA of the original Dario Argento film is still in there. And that one, I feel like that's literally answers my question. Why'd you remake this? Watched it. Oh, you had that to say.
Oh, wow. I like that.
Good answer.
Yeah. And I love the idea of this podcast. So I'm planning to this week when I have to go to the office, definitely key this up and listen to it while I get down with my work. Yeah, this is awesome. I love that idea, man. And yeah, Kat, you know, we can talk movies all day, right?
Yeah. Okay, I have another weird question.
Sure.
I want to know, because you worked as a production assistant, you said, or production manager for a while?
Production assistant, yeah.
Production assistant, and you've done the Screen Rant stuff. So you've talked to some famous people, and you've seen some things. I want some dirt. Tell me something scandalous or interesting or weird that you saw. You don't have to name names.
Yeah.
But
you're gonna be disappointed. If it's a named person, someone you've heard of, 10 times out of 10 from my experience, they're not jerks.
Okay.
Most of the time, they're not jerks.
I like to
Maybe
hear
one.
that.
Maybe one actor was a little bit of a jerk. Now that I think back on it, maybe one guy.
I feel like they're entitled to that though. Like you're in the public eye and you're constantly like scrutinized. Like you're gonna be a kind of an asshole. Like it's fine.
That's fair. I think I'll say one of the worst productions I've been on, for sure, was a skateboarding video.
Really?
Yeah. A skateboarding video for some godforsaken reason looked like it cost $1 million. And I have no idea why.
Oh,
like
wow.
it was a huge production. And you know what? I'll talk shit on the kids who are the skateboarders. They were little hellions.
Skater kids, skater punks.
So think about it. They look death in the eye every time they do a grind without a helmet. So they fear nothing, not production assistants, not God, nobody.
No. I'll tell you, here's one of the worst nights of production for me. This is classic PA storytelling right now. I had to go on a McDonald's run at 4 a.m. So I am driving around downtown LA.
Oh my God.
Where downtown LA looks the most like Blade Runner. And I had a couple of scare incidents with cops and homeless people that didn't know how to interact with, you know, I just had to find a McDonald's. I just
It's like going to a convention with Tina.
It's like 4 a.m. McDonald's. Yes, tell me more. I understand.
Sorry, keep going. I just had to dig that.
Yes, of course.
I finally found one, and I got all the orders for all the hellions, the skateboarders. But they also insisted, like, Justin, make sure you get something too, because you were going to be missing our catered lunch. I'm like, okay, so I just got a standard 10-piece nugget fry meal. I wasn't thinking hard. I drove to set, and I had a walkie on. So as I got closer to the set, the walkie kept getting louder and louder. It's like, Justin, where's Justin? Where's Justin? Where's Justin's 20? Where's Justin's 20? Justin, where's Justin? Where's Justin's 20? And finally, I had to almost yell in my head, I'm here! So the first assistant director comes over, and he's like, hey, man, you all right? I went, yeah, it's fine. I hand him the bag of McDonald's. And so I had to park so he can just give the food. But he asked, what did you order? So I can grab your food first. So I went, I got the nuggets and fries, dude. Okay, cool. So I'm hearing him walk off, and I'm parking, but my walkie's still on. So I hear on the walkie, no, the nuggets are Justin's. You guys, the nuggets are Justin's. Leave the nuggets alone. The nuggets belong to Justin. He drove to find those. Don't take Justin's nuggets. I'm like, are they there when I come back? Can I point out that was in fact my last production assistant job?
I understand. Yes.
You're like, no. So did you get your nuggets?
Yeah, that is what.
Yes, I did. Thankfully. I did.
Oh my God. They had to like beat these teenagers off with a stick.
Oh my God.
After that I got a day job. I do film on the weekends now. And so to answer the screenwriting question, I started I got in contact with some folks over at a website called that #Show, and I got to know Joe from that website, and a friend of mine brought me in there. Figured I'd be good for their live streams, and I started doing live streaming shows, which actually, hilariously enough, just ties back into me talking about this stuff. The live stream show was about Kamen Rider, so that's what I was brought in. So I did the live streams with them. I had fun. It was my first experience doing live stream, and I'm like, okay, I get it. I get why live stream's kind of cool. And so around 2018, Joe went up to me and was like, hey, because Joe does work for Screen Rant. He does a lot of interviews, and he's been doing the press junket route. So I've seen him fly over around the world, and I've seen him interview Marvel actors and etc. So he contacts me and he goes like, hey, are you interested in doing what I'm doing? And I'm like, yeah, why? It's like, we have a junket coming up, and it's for a movie called Vice with Christian Bale, Amy Adams, and director Adam McKay. Do you want to try it? And I'm like, yes, like without hesitating, you know. And then immediately after I said yes, I went, oh no, what did I agree to? So I started doing a lot of homework. I started like researching, because the movie was about Dick Cheney. So I had to do a lot of research on Dick Cheney. And then I got to see the film. And I loved the movie. I think a lot of people didn't. So whatever. I loved the movie. So I had questions that were easy to go. But yeah, it did dawn on me that, oh no, I'm going to talk to Christian Bale and Amy Adams and Adam McKay. Adam McKay directed Anchorman. That's like one of my favorite just comedies of all time. So yeah, immediately I'm like, oh no, don't screw this up. So I did the first person I had to talk to was Christian Bale. And I'll never forget this.
Wow.
So Christian Bale was like, you know, I sat down and there he was, Batman. He was right in front of me. And he's a very calm, quiet, low energy guy. And I had 5 minutes to interview him. And I did hear that the camera crew was like, oh, hey, we have to set something. Can you guys hold for 2 minutes? So I was in the room for an extra 2 minutes with Christian Bale. So I was sitting there like, oh no. Okay, cool. I can do this. I got this. Right? But then Christian Bale was actually the one to break the ice. So he was like, how you doing today, man? I'm like, I'm good. How are you? Good. You know? It's like, did it have you wait long? No, I'm fine. All right, cool. And I kind of sat there and went, here's a lesson I got from Joe, because I was very nervous the night before. And I asked Joe, like, I don't know, I got these nerves. What do I do? And Joe's like, this is what I did for my very first one. It's honestly fine. It's a good icebreaker. Tell them it's your first one. They'll understand. They'll kind of even will be a little easier on you. Yeah. You know, or they might have fun with you on it and make you know, they'll get it. They'll get it that if you're not on top of it, because this is literally your first one. So I remember that advice from Joe. So I sat there and I decided, okay, I'm gonna do a shot. So I very nonchalantly told Christian Bale, like, by the way, this is my first press junket. This is the first time I've ever done this. And he's like, really? Weird, isn't it? And I'm like, it's a little weird. Yeah. It's like a lot of hallway waiting for you guys. And it's like, we have to sit here all day. And like, it's fine. I don't mind it. But it's a weird time, isn't it? I'm like, yeah, a little bit is. It's like, yeah, you'll be fine. Camera guy was like, are you guys ready? And we're like, yeah, I guess I'm ready now. And then I proceeded to do my interview.
Yeah, that's really nice. It's like so, you got that 2 minutes from like God to get you ready.
Yeah.
So you could have that combo.
Chill and decompress with Christian Bale. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So would you say you prefer doing online interviews because it's a little bit easier that you're not, you know, across from them, or do you enjoy being across from them and you've kind of gotten used to it after, after having a few under your belt I know that was the way for me. You know, after I had a few under my belt, I was like, he puts his pants on just like I put my pants on, so I didn't sweat it anymore. But how has it been now, especially in COVID times? Well, I think we're all happy we're at home, we're not getting the disease or anything. But just how do you prefer in-person interviews to online interviews?
I'm not gonna lie. I definitely still prefer in person. You know, like it's immediate. You know, like I'm not worried about the Wi-Fi. I'm not worried about a lag.
Yeah.
And they're right in front of you. And like I miss it. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I'm glad I still get to do it. You know.
Yeah.
You know, like that's still cool. And I think the same amount of work. I still put the same amount of work as I would in person. You know, and I guess I'm a little less self-conscious of how I look because I know how I look in this angle.
Clear.
Yeah.
You know, I'm at the whims of the camera guys and where they put the camera, so
you don't even have to
kind of be like,
Hey,
is this a good side? Is it a good side?
Yeah,
but
I'm sorry. I was gonna say I'm completely with you. Like there's just something to be said when you're in the presence and you kind of get that immediate feedback and you don't have to really worry about anything else. Yeah, it truly becomes a complete experience with that. But then there's something to be said with doing this online. You know, you don't have to worry about much. You just kind of tune in. You know, you set the time, boom, and you go. But yeah. So I was just kind of curious as well for a fellow interviewer how that was for you.
I get it though. I get like there is something nice about like because you know what I'm talking about. There's that person behind the performer that does the wrap it up.
Yeah. And now we get him in the chat. You have to have like the chat open.
Yeah.
Cause yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like I had an interview with Director X this past week with my WB contact. And I just missed the message in the chat to wrap it. And but thankfully for me, it was the interviewee that was, going on. You can't, it's on the guest. It wasn't on me. He kept on going. You got to let him do his thing. So yeah.
No. No, totally. And it's weird. I mean, I could talk to you about this because you and me are kind of in the same boat. Like, it's weird how it's still the same while being extremely different. Like,
yeah,
one of the things I gotten used to was like, okay, the hospitality room. Here's the room where you wait with the 30 other journalists. And maybe you'll see a friend you haven't seen in a while.
Yeah.
Or, and you get the free food and the free drinks or
the free trip out. Like I miss going out to San Fran. I was at Pixar like 2 times last year for Onward and Toy Story 4. Like, man, that was so cool. They put you up, get a hotel. Yeah. Man, shit.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They treat you nice.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, I do miss that. Don't get me wrong. But it's like, it's the same thing where you wait in the room and then you get, it's your time and you're ready, blah, blah, boom. It's so funny how that is exactly the same, but in Zoom. Like, I was really weirded out. Like, we're putting you in the hospitality Zoom room, and here I was with like 30 other journalists, and I can see their homes and shit. And I'm like, that's a little awkward.
Yep.
But it's weird how that's the same, but I'm not gonna lie, I miss being in front of the performer, and I feel like sometimes like if the energy is right and you're kind of vibing with them, you get something more authentic, and when you do it with the screen, but like unless you're like we're talking for a good length, so I got a good vibe for all of you, and it's been fun, but like 3 minutes, it's hard. It's hard even in person, but it's easier in person,
Yeah,
so
completely. Awesome. So we've kind of gone over the career, some of the things you're doing. Before we kind of talk on future projects, we got to do something that we always do with our guests. We really didn't do it when we had the Olympia, or did we do it with the Olympia?
We did, but I wanna expand on it because
all right, well, go ahead, ladies.
Justin, you said that your nerd specialty is like the Sentai, right? Like Ultraman. Mm-hmm. So I want to know, what is your top recommendation, and then what was one that was low tier? Like, I want your top and your bottom.
Okay, you got it. My favorite Sentai, which is like the Power Ranger shows here. My favorite Sentai show is Gokaiger. So that's a pirate themed show.
Oh.
But the thing with that show is that show has them team up and meet every other previous Sentai of 35 years.
Oh my god,
that's wild.
So you get a history lesson of the franchise when you start meeting guys from the 70s and guys from the 80s. You meet Pink Rangers from the early 80s or the 90s. And their whole deal is that they're trying to find, it's the team that looks like pirates, and their whole deal is like they're trying to find the magic treasure of the planet, whatever. And it's all in the form of, they call it Ranger keys, and the keys look like little mini action figures of the Sentai.
Nice.
But so it's like a little action figure of the Sentai. And like, what happens is, in order for them to find it, they have to meet the old team. They have to meet the old members of the team. And that team kind of tends to give them a lesson. You know, the best I can describe it is like, imagine Avengers Endgame happen. And like, instead of them defeating Thanos, all the Marvel superheroes lost their powers. So their world has no more Marvel superheroes. But then out of nowhere, like a bunch of weird space pirates have their abilities. So that's the cool thing about the Sentai team. They have the abilities of the other previous teams because they've collected their keys. So imagine like a team that comes in and all of a sudden there's a guy who can has Spider-Man's webs, and there's a guy who has Hulk's strength, and there's a girl who has like Storm's abilities. And while they're there, they get to learn. They're first kind of selfish about their abilities. They're like, we don't care, we're pirates. But then they start learning about the hero's history and what they mean to the people of Japan, the people of Earth, and start realizing we have a responsibility to protect this planet. So that's why it's one of my favorite shows, for sure.
Awesome. I watched Kamen Rider W.
Yeah.
And then for some reason, the person who recommended it to me, thanks, David, also gave me like all those movie crossovers with like 4 other shows that I had no idea what was happening. It was a lot of like text conversation of, I don't know who this guy I read is, but he's hot. Is he important? Like, I don't, but yes, I did really enjoy seeing that. I thought it was very poignant for someone who knew what was going on. All right, let's talk low tier. What's at the bottom?
Yeah. I think the worst Sentai show I've seen, or the show that I definitely hate the most, is a show called Ninja.
Okay.
It's a ninja themed show. It came out a couple of years ago, and I hate it. It's like the team like hates each other. It's so weird. Like no one likes each other on this team. The Red Ranger's obnoxious, and like they do this thing where he's like, "Oh, I'm the coolest guy in the room," and everyone's like, "Oh, we hate you, but we also need you as the leader." It's like,
you can't have a story about friendship if they're not friends. That's sad.
Yeah.
I like it.
And they're like, I got to episode 7 and I'm like, I'm tapping out. I'm good.
Good.
So, yeah.
All right. Awesome. I loved it.
Yeah. I like that we could, because I remember you saying Kamen Rider was your nerd
or your
topic.
Sentai, right?
Yeah, your Sentai was your nerd topic. So that's really cool to be able to dive in that with you.
Yeah. FYI, I love Double. That's actually one of my favorite Kamen Rider shows. I do love that show.
I really enjoyed it. I was told that if I finished the series, that that he would buy me one of the little toys. So I was like,
did you get that? Did the toy come?
I haven't quite finished it yet, and I also can't decide which one I love the most. There's so many good ones. It's like $1 million though, so I can't have that one.
I have the belt somewhere in my room. I have the Kamen Rider Double belt.
Yeah, so next time you're gonna wear the what's the Darna shirt?
Darna shirt
and then the belts.
Yep.
I wear it. Okay. I promise. I'll hold my word to that.
All right. Awesome. You passed the nerd check, my brother, again. So some good times.
We need to know more.
All right. So what else can we look forward to besides, the Nothing New podcast, which you're going to be delivering with us? If you know what the next Nothing New podcast will be, Screen Rant, and just other projects. What can we look forward to seeing Justin on?
Yeah. So we just released our newest episode of Nothing New, and it's the discussion on The Witches from 1990 and The Witches from 2020. So the one with Anne Hathaway. So we definitely dive deep into both films. The next one is a big one. We're doing Mulan.
Ooh.
I know there's a lot of thoughts.
There's a lot.
Yeah. Ooh.
Yeah.
a lot of thoughts on Mulan. So.
That could be somewhat controversial.
Yeah, no. So yeah, we were definitely getting Disneyed out, by the way, last year. There was like 4 Disney remakes that we covered, and we were like, it's like you have to remake all of them. So that's the upcoming episode, Mulan, which I think that's definitely gonna be it's gonna be an interesting discussion. I haven't seen the live action yet.
Ooh, okay.
I've heard things.
Oh, okay. So you have to watch it to get primed up for the next one. Okay, got it.
Screen Rant, I have up right now on Screen Rant is, like you said, my interview with Anish and Sev for their upcoming film Run, which they were great. I love talking to those guys. I think they knew I was a movie nerd, and like they vibed into that super quick. Because I brought up theming, and I brought up the fact that like I felt that Run was like a weird parallel cousin to Searching.
Yo, did you notice? My wife noticed this because I made her watch Searching. I'm not gonna spoil. I promise I'm not gonna spoil for you, Kat. I promise. But did you notice that there was a certain actor from Searching in Run?
No, wait, what? No,
bro. Okay, I'll tell you offline.
I missed it. Okay, tell me offline. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
because I'm not gonna spoil it for you, Kat. Like I said, I wasn't gonna spoil it. I promise. So good.
But that interview is already up. But I think what they caught on, like, oh, this dude's a film geek. I think they figured out like we can talk the same language. But I have another interview with them coming up for Run that should be up next week. It's with actress Sarah Paulson and Kira Allen. That should be up next week. And then later next week, I should have another, or no, probably early December, I'll have another series of interviews that I'll be doing tomorrow that should be dropped by then for the movie The Last Champion that stars Cole Hauser. So that should be interesting. That's my upcoming Screen Rant stuff as of now. And who knows, like the Screen Rant stuff comes out of nowhere and I got to grab it and just jump onto it right away. Other projects, I have 2 short films that haven't had a chance to release yet. So hopefully soon I'll get those 2 out. I directed 2 short films back in 2018. They both have Earl in it. One I'll hint is a parody on Daredevil.
Nice.
And another one is a fully original short film that's like mostly a character piece and it's a comedy scene. So I have that coming up. Outside of that, I mean, always still trying to cook up other things here and there. I know me and Pat have talked more future things with the Lumpia comic like we discussed last time. And obviously,
we should have the interlude now, right? Because we had the prelude. I think we had the interlude. All right.
Yeah.
Maybe some more emoji action, maybe.
Yes. No, I'm going to try to come up with that'll be the fun is like when I came up with the initial emoji story, that was on the spot. But I also had like the openness to kind of come up with what I want because that took place before the movie. So I definitely, if Pat wants to do the interlude one, then I want to definitely come up with an emoji one. But now the fun challenge to me is going like, okay, so now I have to know where he's in the movie. What is he doing at this point in the film that I can have him do some stupid side quest? So I'm looking forward to figuring that out. And hopefully Dante can draw it again, because I thought he did a great job with the initial one. I was, again, so as you guys found out, and on my last episode here, I found out he drew it, surprisingly.
That's crazy. That's awesome, bro. Super cool. I actually just thought of an idea for you since I saw the film, but I'll give it to you later offline.
Okay, fair.
Amazing stuff, Justin, man. I'm looking forward to what you're doing because you can tell the love when you talk with what you enjoy. So that really shines through, and I love that. I love that, man. So pleasure to have you on, our first returning guest. Ladies, let's show them love, man. Appreciate you, Justin. Thank you for coming on. It's been a pleasure. We're going to talk about you now.
Yeah, but first, tell us where we can find you online.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Justin Quizon, Instagram at Justin Quiz. And yes, you definitely find Nothing New on whatever podcast service you use, Apple, Spotify, We have a Patreon, you know, $1. You get extra crap for $1. Also, I'm trying to, obviously Olympia is coming out, and I'm trying to think of anything else. I always feel like I'm losing something. I do have a new live stream project that I am doing with Pat and Earl. Be on the lookout with that from Pan Geekery. It's called Nerdtastic. We will get into details more when that show comes out, but that'll be our new live stream show.
Hey.
And I'm on Twitch as well. So I talk movies. I do movie discussions on Twitch. I do cooking videos on Twitch as well.
I love Twitch.
So I do movie recommendations. I do like essays and things like that. I do live stream discussions on movies and cooking on Twitch. So you can follow me on Twitch at Justin Quizon. So there you go.
Love it. Awesome. We'll have to do some collaboration, man. I love it. It sounds amazing. All right, my brother.
Love to.
Justin Quizon, show him some love, follow him. Everything's down in the comments below in the description. Give him a follow, and we look forward to your next appearance on ShoPowSho, brother.
I look forward to it. Thank you. This is so much fun, guys. Thank you.
Always, bro. All right, y'all. That was Justin Quizon, awesome cat from Nothing New Podcast, Screen Rant, and especially Lumpia with a Vengeance, and more. The brother's talented. Can't wait to have him back on again. Ladies, what'd you think of Justin coming back on again? Any new insight? I know y'all are, or Kat, you big into that Sentai stuff. So you learned something new about that, or what you're going to check out?
I learned I'm going to have to look up this pirate show.
Yeah.
I liked the thing that stuck out the most for me was when he was talking about collaboration in filmmaking. Like, he was making a point about, collaborating and communicating with your cast, with your crew. But he mentioned that it was an opportunity for him to teach his culture. And I thought that was just another example of why representation matters so much, and why we need Filipino creators in, making films and in the industry and making content, because it's not just, hey, we're telling a Filipino story with what we're making. You're educating the people working on it, on that culture as well. And that just trickles down. So again, one of our biggest things here with ShoPowSho and with the Nerds of Color and all that is that representation matters. So
yes,
that was really poignant for me.
Yes, love it. I especially liked as well, and when we talked about his sketch comedy show group, where it was predominantly Asian, if not all Asian, on the team,
right?
But they didn't want to do stereotypical, Asian themed subjects. They just wanted to be themselves, and they just talk about whatever they wanted to talk about, and they just happened to be Asian to just show that representation. So we're not making fun of ourselves, you know what I'm saying? Where it gives that opportunity, where it just seems awkward. I don't know about y'all sometimes, where it's funny when like Joe Coy talks about his mom or this and the third, but I feel somewhat awkward. I don't know about you guys, when Asian or a non-Asian or non-Filipino kind of like laughs a little too hard, you know what I'm saying? And then they maybe carry on that later on sometimes. And I think that can be said with a lot of other things within our culture. If they're not in that, I don't, you know what I'm saying? It's cringy for me. How about you guys?
No, I agree with you. Like I said, it's like that balance in comedy where, like, if the basis of your comedy is making fun of the stereotypes of your culture, like, that's not comedy. That's like, I don't know, it's low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, punching down, right?
Yeah. So I respected that too, that he's like, they're Asian Americans, but they're doing comedy. They're not making Asian American comedy.
Yeah. I thought it was neat, although it hit a little close to home after you called me out for being a weeb last episode, that he said part of his, interest in like the martial arts and the Sentai was because it's prominent Asian entertainment and representation, even if it's not Filipino representation, just because we don't have a lot. And so, you kind of, you make do, right? Any representation can be good representation when your alternative is more white people shit. And so, I felt that.
Put that on a shirt. Oh.
Love it, love it. So great times with Justin Quizon. Looking forward to him coming back through again. I see nothing but great stuff coming out of that guy. Yeah, so good times. Appreciate y'all, ladies. Let's tell them how they can hit us up online. Oh, but what else can they do to, maybe show us love online, ladies?
Oh, if you guys wanted to support us, if you believe in the representation matters and want to see more Filipino American podcasts, you can support us on Coffee. Buy us a coffee, help us keep our page going, and Patreon as well. We post some exclusive content on Patreon, so if you want to see some more behind the scenes, some more nerding out, some extra diddles here and there, just find us on Patreon.
And where can they find you, Viva?
They can find me on Instagram. I am on Instagram and TikTok at viva.valentina and Twitter at vivavalentinaxo. And if you wanted to challenge me to a chess match, I don't know, find me on chess.com at vivavalentinaxo.
And I am Kataphorric at TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter, all across the board.
Yes, show them love. They are awesome. Again, join our coffee, our Patreon, our Cine gang, and our holla homies. And if you're like Chavi de Guzman, even though you got that glorious hair, and I want you to be my lapu on my Battle of Mactan story, you still ain't gonna get nothing from my girl when she battles you on chess. She's gonna take you down. Anyway, how to do that for the ladies. I love them so much. The amazing Ates. I am Kuya P, aka Patrick Michael Strange. You can follow me at Temple Far East and at Strange since 1977. You can follow me at the Nerds of Color, our home team squad for ShoPowSho, as well as at the NRW and at New Release Wednesday, because nerds rule the world. We are your team, ShoPowSho, Kuya P, amazing Ates. I love y'all, ladies, so much. Until the next episode, mahakita salamat. And we out of here.